Tablighi Jamaat, A House Divided, Part 2. After the introduction that has already preceded, we come to the second part of this multiple part presentation, looking at who the TJs are. The most important source for the TJs, without doubt, is a book called the Fada'il A'mal. Dr. Pieri states, the Fada'il A'mal, the text that every Tablighi is encouraged to read from and contemplate on a daily basis. Whilst the Fada'il A'mal may not give an up-to-date account of current Tablighi objectives in the UK, it allows for an insight on the movement's core official ideologies, which is a good place to begin. Dr. Pieri is clearly stating what everyone knows about the Jamaat al-Tabligh. The Fada'il al-A'mal is the most important text for the Jamaat al-Tabligh, and in later episodes I will be looking at that in detail. Pieri continues on page 57. Through analysing the transcripts of the Thursday Bayans, it was further evident that the Fada'il A'mal has acquired a new significance or even interpretation through the attempts of leaders to apply its teachings to the context of community politics in London. So Pieri is here stating that the Fada'il A'mal is so important that they seek to use this source in order to influence their politics and how they should implement their plans in the modern world. And this thesis, the basis of it is the mega mosque that was planned in Newham. It was a mosque that was going to be the largest mosque in the whole of Europe, and it subsequently failed. 2020, that mosque still hasn't been established. There were images given of what they imagined what they wanted the mosque to be, and there are images also of what the mosque actually is today. It's like a building site, basically. So that plan for the mega mosque failed miserably. And the way that the Tablighis in London interacted with the authorities and interacted with the community and with their neighbours and the press and all manner of NGOs and other official bodies was actually fed by reading the Fada'il al-A'mal, according to Pieri himself. Another interesting thing that Pieri mentions, and this is mentioned on page number 97, and I want to be careful when I read this, but it surprised me and it was quite eye-opening that Pieri brought the example of a death cult called the Heaven's Gate cult. And he mentioned this when he was analysing the TJs, because he was looking at empirical credibility. Now what that means is, when the TJs say they are going to do something, for them to be empirically credible, they have to be able to show evidence backing up their claims. And Pieri actually, shockingly, mentioned the Heaven's Gate cult. So I'll give you exactly what Pieri himself says on page number 97. Whilst the Heaven's Gate cult was not credible on a general level, those who had joined the group saw its empirical claims as having credibility. As such, it may not be that evidence backing up a movement's claims has to be true, but it has to be perceived as such by those that the movement is targeting. With the TJ, the leaders of the movement in London were not able to initially convince the public or decision makers of their new socially inclusive and multiculturalist stance, because the evidence from the mosque in Dewsbury proved to the contrary. This is important. The London TJs needed to seem empirically credible. And like other cults, the example being the Heaven's Gate cult, their claims don't necessarily have to have any truth to them, but they have to seem empirically credible. So read this as you will, and it will be on the screen for you to read and analyze for yourself, but he's linking the London Tablighis and the Dewsbury Tablighis, saying the London Tablighis are making a claim and they're trying to be empirically credible. But when you look at the Dewsbury Tablighis, the evidence that they display is contrary to what the London ones are saying. This house is divided. There's a split. And then in the footnote, it mentions other researchers, specifically Sophie Gilliatt-Ray. This was research done in 2005. And Pieri mentions in his footnote, this is something this researcher is able to identify with after spending some time in Dewsbury in 2007. The TJ Mosque there had signs all around warning unauthorized people not to enter. Sophie Gilliatt-Ray has also experienced problems with access to TJ mosques. Now, if you look at the link that I've provided, where Barbara Metcalf talks about the Deobandis and the Jamaat Tabligh, she is sympathetic towards the Tablighis in her lecture, and specifically the role of women within the Tabligh. But in England, at least, and in Dewsbury, at least, there is this cult-like mentality, and that is Pieri's assertion. He brought the Heaven's Gate cult. There is this cult-like mentality in Dewsbury, and the London Deobandis stroke Tablighis are trying to throw off this negative image. Next, we come to the historical context. I do not want these videos to be too long, so the historical context will be mentioned in part 3 of this multi-part analysis.